Hi everybody, McBeard here. Welcome back to Way the Witcher card reviews. Nice amount of cards to talk about. A little bit of everything as well. And let's get things started with brand new scoia'tael card, Making a Bomb. Move an enemy to the other row and give it bleeding if it's the only unit on that row, I'm assuming after it is moved. Damage it by 4 instead. So this is the new entrant to the club of deal 4 damage for 4 provisions. I think scoia'tael's take on it is very good because they've always been able to move things for cheap, but kind of getting both removal and moval on the same unit is pretty good. Now, you have to use it early. It has to be used early. Like, you would play around this card. You wouldn't want to play an engine right away because you'd be playing into Making a Bomb. So if this is run in the meta, you would want to play around this. The quality of this particular picture is not great. The rest of them are much more crisp, I promise. This one was released on the Merchants of Novigrad podcast over the weekend, actually. So this was like a little weekend reveal we got. How nice. How nice. Anyway, I think this card could see play. It seems like it's about as playable as Natural Selection. You know? You don't always need it in monsters, but you might consider it sometimes in some metas. And I think that for cheap removal, you would take this consideration. But it will only play sometimes. So, you know, it's kind of like a predatory dive kind of thing where if you just play around it, it's not going to hurt you that bad. But it does still de-row, and it does still apply bleeding. So it will always get the value of essentially locking a unit that needs to be on a certain row. And I think that at 4 provisions, that's a pretty good price to pay to have that option in your deck. So this seems pretty playable, I'd say. Seems pretty playable. Now the quality's going right up here. The Witcher Student is going to be the token of the expansion. We're going to see a lot of these little guys. And, you know, Witcher Students, not all of them make it. So you're going to see stuff like the... you're going to try to control these little guys because they can turn into much worse things. The Witcher Student can be upgraded by the Griffin Witcher Adept. Anything that makes a Witcher Student cares about that card. Specifically, the Griffin Witcher Adept. There's not a lot of cards that care about Witchers yet. But there are a lot of cards in the game that care about Witchers currently. Now, this is a pretty cool one right here. We got a new raid for Skellige, 5 provisions, damage an enemy unit by 2, spawn 3 Witcher students on the opposite row, damage them by 1, and give them 1 armor. So this is cool for a lot of reasons. Generally, cards that make tokens, I like these cards. I like Smoke Them Out, and I'm going to like this card too. But this card immediately makes the Bear Witcher... and we're going to go back to the card reveals for the refresher. We have the card that's already been revealed, and that's the Bear Witcher Mentor. The Bear Witcher Mentor immediately plays for 7 on a board after you play Armor Up without Adrenaline. So that means that this becomes a pretty playable card. This card also has armor, as do the Witcher students. So it means that if you needed to damage your board or survive a ping, let's say, because these Witcher students now could be all healed, like you drop the Heme Flamenca immediately, now you get 3 points of healing, or if you play an organic card and you're playing Battle Rage, Battle Trance, you have a lot of units that can be healed. So I think that these cards immediately are very playable together. And I like it because it's also a raid. It's just got a lot happening. Plus, you can set up something for a kill later on. So you're also probably not killing something with the damage enemy unit by 2. So that's 1 more damaged unit for the Bear Witcher Mentor. So I forgot to factor that in. Bear Witcher Mentor actually could be playing for 8 in that situation, right? So that sounds like Skellige Tempo, Witcher Bear School Skellige Tempo. The picture is starting to come together. I really like the idea of immediately healing your board too. This is such a good one here. Spontaneous Evolution. A monstrous organic card, 5 provisions, boost an allied unit by 4, and then gain an additional effect based on the unit's category. that you boosted. So if you boost an insectoid by 4, you get 3 drones. If you boost a beast by 4, you boost it by 8 instead, making it Adrenaline Rush. Better Adrenaline Rush? This is like the new Adrenaline Rush. This is basically how they're going to creep that neutral card. Give monsters a card, but it's only for beasts, right? And if it's an Ogroid, give all Ogroids in your hand 2 armor. So all 3 of these effects are pretty different. They're pretty different. Also, keep in mind, you can play this on any unit. You just won't get the extra effect if it's not one of these categories. But you can boost a unit by 4 at any time with this card. It's not great, but maybe you need to do that. We saw a card also that cares about drones. So let's just say this is a Drones Matter expansion. So Erika's Queen loves this card. The big beasties, the boosted by 8. I honestly could see this finding a home in so many different monsters decks, and that's the point. But give all Ogroids in your hand 2 armor. Now you're actually trading tempo for this effect. Will this be good? We already saw the Fuka, and this doesn't affect the clone of the Necker, so it's not like you're turning all your Neckers into Andrega larvas. But there could be a couple of more things that I'm not really considering as far as Ogroids. It will protect your big-time engines like She-Troll, or if you, for whatever reason, needed to protect Ogroids. You know, your Necker Warrior, I suppose. Necker Warrior does come down as a 4. Now it's a 4.2 armor card. I mean, you'd be able to get away with murder with 4 provision units. This is all Ogroids in your hand. But you do have to play low tempo at one point. So this card is just really interesting because it's going to be all over the place, especially in Arena, or draft mode. And the art is, just wild, right? Just wild. So yeah, this is a very playable card just because there's so many ways to play it. I'm a big fan of this one. Skellige gets a new Bear Witcher. This is the Bear Witcher Adept. Even he is surprised that he caught that fish. This kid will kick your ass, by the way. He's a 4 provision, 7 strength Witcher. On deploy, damage self by 4. At the end of your turn, heal self by 1. While not damaged, gain 1 armor instead. So, yeah, there's a lot to say about this card. First of all, it is a great card that cares about wounded units. It's a great card that can be immediately healed by anything that wants to heal. It still starts at 4, and it's a 4 provision card, so Portal is in the conversation. Portal is in the conversation here, but I don't think it's a bad conversation because I don't really see people playing that. Just because they didn't really do it with the other 7 strength 4 provision card in the NL Conqueror. So I don't know why it would necessarily. It's not like this is it doesn't grow beyond 7, so it's not really an engine. So I don't think Portal is going to play a huge factor in this card, but I do think that the card is fantastic by itself. It matters because 7 strength in the graveyard or in the deck is always handy to have, and the less you have to pay for that, the better. Cards that heal, and I think that we're probably going to see more of these cards, but cards that heal just get a lot of value on this guy, and you're not paying anything for it. I'm thinking Heime Flaminica is going to be a pretty standard inclusion if you're actually going to be filling the board with wounded units more often than you ever have before. Greatsword was just the start of this story, I think. Oh my god. This is a test of the Ontario Alert Ready system. There is no danger to your health or safety. If this was an actual emergency, you would now hear instructions protecting yourself. This is the loudest thing I've ever fucking heard in my life. My wife heard it in the bathroom, like down the hall, and she's laughing her ass off. It was louder than the smoke alarm. All right, so I think that this card it's just very playable because when you're starting to look, now you're just looking at the Bear Witcher package. You've created a damaged unit, and then you've created 3 more damaged units and damaged another unit. So let's say you're on blue coin. You play this. Your opponent plays something to hit, and then you play, and then you hit this. So you have 5 damaged units. You're dropping your Bear Witcher Mentor for 9 points. That seems very okay. SK getting the good stuff again. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Target Practice is a brand new Northern Realms Warfare card for 4 provisions. Oh, baby, it's everything I've ever wanted. Boost an allied unit by 4. If there is a Witcher in that boosted unit's row, also spawn a Witcher student on that row. It is another Mad Charge type of card that cares about the board state. So for that reason, I'm not crazy about it. But in the Witcher deck, this is looking great, right? Obviously, you have your Griffin Witcher adepts, and you're boosting them, and you're creating new Griffin Witcher adepts, let's say. You don't have to have a Witcher on the boosted unit's row. If the boosted unit is a Witcher, I'm sure this also procs. So you boost the Griffin Witcher adept, it spawns the student, and then you immediately have a target for the Witcher adept. And yeah, let's go back and take a look at this here. So this card's looking way better. Griffin Witcher Adept is a 4 provision card with a shield. Transforms an allied Witcher into a base copy of this card. So it means you immediately boost this guy by 4. He becomes an 8. Spawns a 2. You turn him into a 4. 12 points, 2 cards. You know, it seems fine for what you're paying for it. So I will say that this card is just about as likely to see play as like Making a Bomb, maybe slightly more. But you do need to have your Griffin Witcher adepts. But we know there's going to be ways to tutor Witchers. And there's always ways to... The consistency in Gwent has never been better. So having very specialized cards like this, it doesn't scare me, really. It doesn't make me think that these will be clunky at all. Because we have a lot of... reliability these days. And the other Griffin Witcher helps towards that too. But we're not there yet. We're going to talk about Berengar. Berengar or Berenjar? Berengar. There's actually some really cool... there's actually something really interesting about this card. But so Berengar, brand new, neutral Witcher. Yeah, Ragnar, you're going to have a bunch of Griffin Witchers all over the place with shields. Damn Sorceress looks pretty good. Pretty playable card now, I think. But let's talk about Berengar here. So Berengar is a 6 provision neutral Witcher. He has 9 strength, but the downside is at the end of your turn, destroy this card if it's the only Witcher on the row. Which means that all you have to do to destroy Berengar is make sure that he's alone on the row when there is a Witcher involved. And the only way you can save Berengar is by continuously playing Witchers on his row. That could be pretty doable. If every unit you have is a Witcher, then you can most likely just play your cards. What's going to prevent you from playing your Witchers? Nothing's going to really prevent you from playing your Witchers. So unlike most cards that can be hard to protect in certain ways, this guy seems pretty easy to protect. Like, pretty damn easy. And the upside is you get 9 points. That's pretty good. I think this card is actually... like, look at Armor Up. You get to put 3 Witchers on that row. How hard, like, how devoted and teched out is your opponent going to be to just kill all your Witchers when it's a Witcher expansion and all your units are Witchers? It's just not going to happen. So I think that this card's going to see play. I think Berengar sees play in a Witcher deck. I am certain of it. Interesting piece of information about this card. This artwork, if you thought it looked a little strange, you would be correct. They actually have a different artwork on the reveal page. Anyway, you can see above me here, sort of. Just bring it out a little bit. The water is actually completed here, whereas in his art here, the water is actually not completed. It looks like somebody took some white out and just kind of scribbled in the wave. Berengar's lore is that he was a Witcher in Witcher 1 that went on a lot of contracts but actually never completed any. And so he's like kind of like a loser Witcher. So like when there's not another Witcher around, he doesn't succeed. Like the lore on the card, on the effect of the card it's delightful. It's delightful lore. It's delicious. Stolen Mutagens. What a card. I love cards with 3 options attached to them. Of course, you can't do this with many cards in a set. So everybody's getting a new theme. Everybody's getting a new tag card. Like we're seeing the new Raid. We're seeing the new Warfare. We're seeing the new Bomb for scoia'tael. Yeah. We're seeing the new Crime. We're seeing a new crime. We saw the new raid for Skellige, and now we get the crime for Salamandra. Stolen mutagens. 5 provisions. Pick a mutagen. Pick an effect. 1, you can damage an enemy unit by 4. Okay. Blue, poison an allied unit and gain 5 coins. Or green, boost an allied unit by 4. Give it Veil. If you control at least 3 Salamandra units, profit 3. So what you need to see here is that this is a new sentence. After you pick your mutagen, then if you control at least 3 Salamandra units, profit 3. So that means that if you control 3 Salamandra units after you poison your allied unit, you are gaining 8 coins, if I'm not mistaken. So the reason why I'm saying that is we got to see the 3 options. Roses are red, violets are blue. I've got a green mutagen for you. But we get to see that the profit 3 is not part of the green mutagens tooltip. So the profit that is its own sentence, which makes poison an allied unit and gain 8 coins. That sounds pretty good. The option of always damaging an enemy unit by 4 is, that's better than dipping the Pontar. And you were running Assault back in the day, so for that to be just one mode of a very useful card is fantastic. Also, this card cares about Salamandra, and so does Assault. And it seems like Salamandra is the heart and soul of this expansion this time for Syndicate. So I would think that Assault is going to be buffed. Just because it's being in a Salamandra expansion, we're going to see more Salamandra units. All I want to say is that a card like this gives you so many great options. For Syndicate, it's kind of nutty if you have a spender. You are going to be able to you are overloaded with money, and all you have to do is poison all these brand new units that want to be poisoned. That's what we're seeing so far. Let's scroll on down here. You want to poison units because whenever a unit is poisoned and Roland is on the board, you've gained 2 coins. So that means if you poisoned your own unit and you have 3 Salamander units on the board and Roland is one of them and you had 0 coins, you just over-profited. Salamander Abomination does like to be poisoned and then purified. The failed experiment doesn't gnaw away at your coins if it's poisoned. But it's okay, you're going to have tons. You're going to have tons of coins anyway. So you're just rich, but you're playing with these fragile units because poison is not the easiest status to fuck with, It's not easy. scoia'tael and Nilfgaard have easy access to it. So I really, really don't know. I don't know about this. But if I trust that they're putting a lot of really good thought into it. And that just to take self-poison, hyper thin / mill, I'm not even really sure what Northern Realms is doing yet. Movement is a fun one to play with. Self-wound, these are all the archetypes that they picked. It's pretty awesome. And it looks like the grab bag for monsters. So to build the expansion, this is really giving extreme and interesting power to the most underplayed archetypes. That's what it seems like. But the archetypes have to be mechanical. They can't be based on tags because the tag is Witcher. NR seems Swarm. It's true, but so does Skellige. Sorry to jump off topic. Am I going to jump on Gwent today? Am I going to be playing Gwent today? Probably, yeah. It's not really off topic. The topic is Gwent. Is that off topic? Clearly, everybody is waiting for me to talk about this, I'm sure. Junot of Belhaven is here. A 9 provision, 6 strength Witcher. 4 Skellige. Deploy, destroy a damaged enemy unit. All right, so there is obviously narrative around this card, isn't there? This card is a re-release of the card Vabjorn. That when Vabjorn was changed to the raid tutor that Skellige currently has, the effect of deploy, destroy a damaged unit, was removed from the game. And I famously hated that. It wasn't really so much as that the effect was removed. It's that I figured that Vabjorn was a very playable card with an effect that could always be relevant. And I just didn't understand why that effect would be removed. The stuff that never gets played and the stuff that's really weird, I see how these things can be tweaked. But destroy a damaged enemy unit is like, it's so basic. It's such a basic ability, and it's such a fine ability for Skellige. And Vabjorn wasn't played, and that was really just kind of like a meta thing, because the cards that cared about Vabjorn sometimes were very difficult to play as well, or they weren't competitive. But for it to be removed from the game, I just thought it was terrible. And I didn't like what that meant for the future of cards that I could actually like. There's a lot of players that like weird cards that are just, maybe aren't played very much, but the players like them. I am positive that I was not the only person that saw them remove this effect from the game and I was repulsed. I felt a distance grow in my passion for the game when that occurred. It was a very important moment. And now it's back in the game, and I guess I'm supposed to feel things about that. They're adding an effect back into a game at the epic slot that they removed from my collection in the first place, and now are inviting me to buy it again. So that is a very Magic the Gathering thing, That's very Magic the Gathering. It's the only way I can put it, and the people who follow Magic the Gathering probably get it. But Magic the Gathering has released cards that I bought before, and I was invited to buy them again. They take Amonkhet cards away, they take Kaladesh cards away, and then they bring Kaladesh and Amonkhet back into the game, but I don't have these cards anymore. What the fuck? Anyway, this is obviously far less egregious, but it is still something that makes me why did you remove it in the first place? That being said, I like this card. I think this card is playable, and no one's going to play it because I'm basically reviewing a card that was removed from the game 3 patches ago as an excitement piece for the new expansion. It's just kind of backwards. It just seems a little backwards to me. It should be noted that Junod of Belhaven is worse than Vabjorn was because he can't be pulled by Blood Eagle. All right, back to Northern Realms. Here we go. Griffin Witcher Mentor. 5 provisions for a 5 strength Witcher. Okay, the body's there. Deploy, draw the top unit, and then shuffle a card back into your deck. Adrenaline 4, boost the unit you've drawn by 2. So this is a pretty interesting card. You guys remember old Beta Taller? His ability as a silver card, of which you could have 6 of in your deck, it was like mid-range cards. His ability was to have like a pretty decent body and the effect of mulliganing, basically. You mulligan once. It was a played card. It was a very useful card because fixing your hand was pretty good. Playing it for not terrible tempo was also pretty fine too. The idea that this card also gives you a benefit to your hand fixing later on in the game makes it that much more interesting to me. However, it means that you're playing a 5-point card at the end of a round when you might not be able to afford that tempo. So the adrenaline on this is an interesting inclusion, and I wonder how much it's going to matter because you're going to want to get greedy. You're going to want to get that boost. But what you might want the most is the hand fixing. And I don't know, I find I will probably play this card off adrenaline sometimes, but this allows you to put a lot of greedy mulligans into your deck. You could play Dunbanner and you could play Blue Stripes because you could always fix your hand with your lower costed bronzes. Additionally, boosting a unit that you're drawing matters for inspiration. Bhutan Fire in the chat saying if I ever used this card, it would be a 1 of. Yeah, it seems like a useful card. Like it feels like the Wild Hunt Bruiser, right? Like it's just like a card that seems useful. It doesn't have like a lame strength level. It's a Witcher for what that's worth. You wouldn't want to necessarily change this card into a Griffin Witcher Adept because it's a strong Witcher specifically, and you wouldn't necessarily want to transform this or protect it because the card doesn't do anything. He just doesn't do anything once he's there. So he's in there. You don't want 2 of these because you probably won't be able to get away with playing 2 of these. Playing 1 of them though, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think this card is going to be, I think there are going to be people out there that just really love this card. They'll say, I just always love running this card. It helps me fix my hand. It doesn't cost me very much to do that. It's got this awesome bonus if I'm just bleeding my opponents. I can set up for like a crazy round 3 with the bleed. Like if I don't care about points, now I love this card. I see there's going to be people that really like this card, but I think that it's not going to be a popular card. I think I like this card the more I think about it, but you need to put yourself in a position where you're doing the bleeding, right? In our hand buff meta. The more I think about it, I like it. Because if like Northern Realm's going crazy to win a round, setting up a bunch of engines that the opponent can't deal with, so they have to lose the round, and then you come in with the bleed with these guys, you actually start boosting all your units, setting up for a crazy long round. I don't know. Maybe. No, it looks like it looks like a good bleed card, but it also looks for like a good like if you can stay in the round on red coin, this will feel shitty if your opponent's staying in the round with this, boosting units in their hand. There is still so much more to talk about, dudes. Man, it's a thought starter. It's a real thought starter card, Griffin Witcher, and I think that most of these cards are like that. But here we go. We got a pretty wild one. This is a nice monsters card. This one just came out today. An epic 8 provision, 7 strength insectoid. This is Idr. Pronounce it how you want, but that's how I'm going to pronounce it. I'm going to read the sentence that doesn't care about adrenaline first. Whenever you consume 1 or more units, spawn a drone on this row. When you have 3 cards or less in your hand, you can use Idr's order, Idris Elba. You can use Idr's order, and it consumes all tokens on this row, and this card gains immunity. But it doesn't stop the effect of the consuming. So I am pretty sure that this also will spawn an additional drone at the time. I don't see why it wouldn't. So this card is kind of like a big, bad, terrifying version of the Fallen Knight, right? Lonely Knight, Alex the Pro? Lonely Champion? Fallen Knight? I'm wrong. Lonely Champion. That's what we're all over the place. Lonely Champion. Lonely Champion. But this is a scary one, right? Because this is a badass. Because once this card touches down, you want to play this early because it's an engine. You want it alive. Your opponent has at least 1 turn to deal with it, but you want to get value. To make this card really good, you want to get a bunch of drones, and then it just eats them all up. The order is not that strong. The order is really worth 1 strength, but the passive effect is +1 on every consume, and it gives you a lot of things to consume. So this is like a cornerstone piece to a consume deck. If you had a deck that was like old school Vran or whatever, that had something that consumed every turn, like automatically, could you fucking imagine? I wish. Or whatever, you have like 2 charges on your Barghest, or there's just a lot of ways to constantly be consuming. So this card is a very, very good Death Wish engine, a really strong Death Wish engine. It plays for such a strong amount of points as well, immediately threatening, very much like Dire Mutated Hound, let's say, the Dire Doggo, immediately plays as a threatening, hard-to-remove engine. 7 is tough. 7 is tough. And if you don't get rid of it, well, you don't really cash very much in because, again, you're just spawning the drone, but you're given immunity to the card. This card is still always going to be susceptible to Curse of Corruption. This card is always going to be susceptible to any tall removal. But this card does vastly change your board state. It gives you things to eat. It gives you tons of drones if you care about drones. It gives you tons of 1s if you want to play Glusty Warp. You don't necessarily have to use Idr's Order for it to be good, but when you do use it, you are giving immunity to this card. All in all, I think that this card will be played and will be probably valued in the same way that the Beast is valued. Remember, you can Caranthir a card like this. So if you play Caranthir into Idr, and then you consume with like your Desert Banshee or your Barghest, you are right away starting to get value from that. So I would say that this card is probably about, I don't know, would you say this card's about as good as, like, I think that Oriana Blood Scent cares more about Oriana than this card would care about consuming. So that's why I feel like I'm ready to say that it's kind of like a cornerstone engine, but it's not going to be the big deal. But it's going to be something like, it's going to be like the Beast. It's going to help you win big time, right? Yeah, I think this is just a good card. And it's a good card and likely is going to see play if it has support, and it's looking like Insectoids are surely going to have support. So your Overwhelming Hunger consumes a unit, right? Oh, it does not consume? Oh. Does that, well, it means that the units are going to be more important, and I think that's better. Are we talking about buffing Overwhelming Hunger in my chat? Get out of here. It's fine. All right, Viper Witcher Mentor. Look at this, a new 6 provision bronze card for Nilfgaard. Another Nilfgaard card, first time in a while. This is a 6 provision Witcher, 1 strength, deploy. Set the power of this card to match provision cost of the top card in your opponent's deck. Adrenaline 2, that means that you have to play this as your 3rd to last card or later. Set the power, this is so crazy. Set the power of this card to match the provision cost of the highest cost card in the opponent's deck instead. Okay. So, when this card is controllable, it is very good. I don't know if this is a 2 of, but for a 6 provision card, it's awesome. And when I saw it at first, I thought it could have been a gold card. For a 6 provision card, this guy's going to hit pretty hard. It's going to hit pretty hard. So let's just say you didn't draw a Neuromancy. Or you didn't draw, the information already. So you're getting information, first of all. So if you're playing Courier or whatever, like you also have that new coded weapons. So you could know exactly what's on top of the opponent's deck. So you would know exactly what you're playing this for. So let's say you played coded weapons to kill Pavko Gale. So that means that Pavko Gale's on top of the deck. You're playing the Viper Witcher for 9 points. Set this card. Sorry, 7 points. Pavko's 7? 8 points. Pavko's 8 points. So it's set. It's not boosting by, it's set. So once again, you see a Nilfgaard card that has the lowest possible strength for a very strong effect. Because if this is hitting the highest card in the deck, imagine your opponent has not drawn Masquerade Ball yet. You just dropped this dude for 15 strength. Against monsters, it could be, it's just going to be very strong if you're playing this near the end. But that's when you want to play massive tempo. You enable Nilfgaard to play a card like this. You don't want to take Nilfgaard to the bitter end, because if they have Viper Witcher Mentors, they are going to hit hard. They are going to come out as bombs. But you know what's in your deck. You know what's in your deck and what's in your hand. So you will know when you can or can't and kind of engage this card. I think this card is brilliant. It's another really interesting card. It's brilliant. It is something that you can also plan around, because if you, let's say Nilfgaard's meta, let's say you know that this is coming, and you know that it's going to hit huge because you have your scenario in your deck. But you have Reset in your hand. So you know it's going to hit. You know the Reset is going to be huge, but you've used your Reset on a 6 provision card. Maybe they want that baited out. So I think that this card absolutely is starting to have support built around it. I think Coded Weapons now is much more interesting card. And there's already a bunch of ways to know what's on top of the opponent's deck anyway. Because let's say you play Traherne, you ditch a good card, but there's another card in there that's like pretty good, like it's Dawn Mirror or whatever. Boom, 9-point Viper Witcher later on. Would things take priority, Deploy or Adrenaline? They happen at the same time. Adrenaline takes effect as you are playing the card. So if you have 3 cards in your hand and you play this, Adrenaline 2 triggers because you have 2 cards in your hand now. Yeah, I can see Nilfgaard loading up their tempo plays, but Nilfgaard looks like they're going to take a lot more brain power than maybe Skellige will, because you need to do setup as usual with Nilfgaard. Speaking of Skellige, we got another. We have the Bear Witcher Mentor, the Bear Witcher Adept, the Bear Witcher, and Armor Up, the Witcher creating Raid. I think the bronze core is all together here for Skellige because we got the Bear Witcher here. 5 provisions for an 8 strength Witcher. On deploy, damage self by 3, so he drops at 5 for 5. Adrenaline 4, damage self and an enemy unit by 3 instead. So now you're actually getting that 8 value, but you're getting it in 2 damaged units. I think that this is a pretty fine card because Skellige's late round, because now you can really you're going to start to look at rounds. You're not just going to look at long round, short round. You're going to start looking at early round, late round, because it's going to start to matter what time it is in a round, which is really, I hope, going to add a really nice layer of intricacy on when you decide to do things. When pushing is a smart idea, because when you push, you are pushing into the adrenaline usually. So in this case, Bear Witcher, I don't know, there's no like crucial period where it's like, oh, I need that damage by 3 effect. But it means that you're playing them for 8. You're playing them for 8 on a certain board state. You're damaging yourself by 3. If you have Heime Protectors, you know, much like the other Bear Witchers. All the Bear Witchers, they love to hurt themselves, but they usually get over it. So Self-Wound is huge in this expansion. The guy who loves damaged units. So you go Adrenaline 4, Bear Witcher, boom. 2 more damage units for the Bear Witcher Mentor, who, honestly, this guy could be dropping for 10, 11. This guy could be a real monster, the Bear Witcher Mentor. All the support cards seem to be there. Finally, today, what a reveal. The cycle is complete. Geralt Quen. Tailbot got to reveal this one. Geralt Quen is a 10 provision, 2 strength Witcher. Geralt drops with a shield, and when you play him, play a Witcher from your deck. He is a neutral Witcher tutor. But you gotta pay. You gotta pay the old tutor cost for him. But if you have Adrenaline 3, you give this Witcher a shield. This card, even though it's a neutral card, is a very important card. I'm gonna go through a couple of reasons, a couple of ways you can play Geralt Quen. But they are all gonna make me say, man, he's expensive. But what he does is pretty good. First of all, he is a 2 strength. He is a 2 strength, 10 provision unit with his shield. So if somebody has forced you against your will to play Cosimo, at least you have that card to transform and hope not to get another Geralt. Is also playing a Witcher from your deck, which could be, I don't know, let's imagine that the current Witchers in game are going to change too. Let's imagine. Because I have to think about the Wolf School Witchers with this card. But let's say they aren't changing. Let's say I'm just running a bad deck and I'm running the Wolf School Witchers. And I play this card. Geralt comes out, grabs Lambert. I've played 4 Witchers now, and maybe Roach. Or maybe I grabbed Vesemir Mentor, and now I've boosted all the Witchers in my deck. Or maybe I just need a really consistent way to get my combo together, which involves multiple Witchers or a specific Witcher. Because if it involves multiple Witchers, Geralt is that multiple Witcher. Happy for the Griffin Adept to teach Geralt a thing or two and turn him into a stronger Witcher. But he has a shield as well. Damn Sorceress is looking good, and it looks like shield gameplay might end up being important again for Geralt. So we think about stuff like Ragnar. The damn Sorceress is now just going to have so many shield units, and on Adrenaline 3, that means you've played this with 4 cards or less in hand, you are pulling a Witcher and giving it a shield. Now, let's just remind you of probably the most dangerous Witcher engine that could be in the game. You know, in a world where we're not stopping anything or not answering anything, it's probably Colgrim. And Colgrim, you don't really want him on the board until late anyway. So you're playing Geralt Quen with Colgrim, which is also thinning your deck a bit more too if you're playing hyper thin. And now Colgrim is coming out with a shield and probably boosting himself by like 7 or 8. So he's also got a shield on himself as well. So there's one example right there. Vesemir Mentor, Geralt Quen will find that as well. But as far as like other Witchers you might want to pull, you can pull Berengar, and Berengar will survive. And he'll keep surviving because you're probably going to keep playing Witchers because you're playing a Witcher deck. So opening up with Berengar, Geralt, Quen, I don't know. Why not? Why not? I think Berengar is probably... looks like he's going to be... Berengar is going to be the Count Caldwell of this expansion. It's going to be the card that they made a bit too good and too easy to control, I think. Maybe 9 isn't going to be that great. I mean, 9 with the downside versus 9, like, look at Syndicate. Syndicate's got 9 with the downside too, at 5 at bronze. So maybe it's not that big of a deal. I just think he gets played. All right, my friends, that's going to wrap up another Way of the Witcher card review. As a hefty amount of cards, some really interesting ones. The archetypes are clearly coming together, and I'm going to see you for another batch of cards shortly. They keep coming out around this pace. Yeah, I think it's going to be a couple of days, and we'll have like another 10 cards to talk about, I'm sure. So I am also revealing a card. The earliest I can talk about it in North America on the 29th is 7. So that's EU on the 30th after 1 a.m. A pretty interesting, well-received card. I'm excited to share it with you when the time is right. Until next time, my friends, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. Let me know down there. There's lots of ways to tell me that you like the video. Or you can just come find me on Twitch, usually during the day around 11 o'clock a.m., noontime, North America, on the East Coast. That's when you'll find me. I'm playing lots of Gwent, Genshin Impact. We're getting a PlayStation 5 soon. We're going to be playing some PlayStation 5 games. Cyberpunk, of course, in the future. The rest of 2020 is looking pretty dope, I think. I'll see you next time, my friends. Thanks for watching.